In a world where we become increasingly aware of the social justice problems we and our peers encounter, a form of discrimination that some even doubt exists has dawned upon us, misandry, manifesting as toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity, defined as a range of harmful ideas and stereotypes that are associated with men, is a problem that has existed and continues to exist, with little to no coverage in modern media. While society has undoubtedly formerly, and still perhaps in some ways now, been in favor of men, especially white men, sexism against men is still a problem that continues to exist today. Due to the fact that our society and culture does not allow men to express their feelings and vulnerability, this issue will only worsen. I want to bring light to this form of unlikely sexism and call on all citizens to fight against misandry for ourselves, the men in our lives, or both. The criminal justice system has always been particularly biased against men, and many would merely chalk it up to men committing more crimes. While it is true that a man is more likely to commit a crime, the journal's resource reports that there is more to it. There are various disparities in how men and women are treated by the justice system. A 2015 study by the Journal of Criminal Justice draws attention to the differences in judges' decisions during both the hearing and sentencing. In this study, it found women and men had overall equal treatment in length of sentences in crime, but men were more likely to be sentenced to prison, detained pre-trial, and given higher bonds when released on bond. The fact that many people let blatant bias run in the justice system that is in charge of the fates of many is outrageous. Could you imagine or experience yourself moments where one got more reward than you, or one got a more lenient punishment than you, all because of the color of your skin, your gender, even your sexuality? We should treat everyone on equal terms and punishment, regardless of what is part of their identity. In a 2014 research article by Jill K. Donner and Stephen D. Muth, results pointed towards not only did men get longer sentences for the same crimes, but they also were more likely to receive prison time. This ironic injustice is something we should all agree nobody should ever stand for. Now we're on the topic of the justice system. I want to cover a crime that men are victims to, far more than an average person may think. It's heinous, trauma-inducing, and a despicable act no matter the gender of the offender. It's rape. The act of forcing intercourse upon another person, whether by physical means or by emotional manipulation, the latter otherwise known as sexual coercion. By now, I believe the Me Too movement is well known. It's led to the exposure of rapists such as the now infamous former comedian Bill Cosby, proving very successful in revealing the dark secrets of the industry and bringing female victims justice. Despite this, Me Too doesn't cover a critical aspect, men being sexually assaulted. For instance, famous actor Terry Crews was once groped by a Hollywood executive, Adam Bennett, yet was not significantly covered at all in comparison to other instances in the media. In an article under the National Center of Biotechnology, it talks about how not only are men ashamed, just like women, when recounting their stories about rape, but men are less likely to report it. Even studies rarely acknowledge male rape, with the article reading that very little attention has been paid to male victims of rape and sexual assault in adulthood, and even less attention has been paid to male rape in the military. The fact that men feel like they've lost their masculine identity and experience shame and humiliation due to male rape is an example among how many society forces toxic gender roles on men. In a way, this shows toxic masculinity as men feel as though they cannot be vulnerable in order to keep their masculinity intact, and thus keep trauma from mentally devastating events like rape internal. Relating once more to how society pushes men to toxic roles of masculinity is how emotions are invalidated, or even given a negative stigma when in relation to men. This is present in an opposite way to women. Whereas women are portrayed as emotional stereotypically, men are considered weak for having emotion. Bear in mind that neither of these stereotypes are accurate and both are damaging. The American Psychology Association covers in an interview with Wisdom Powell, with a doctorate and an MPH, that masculinity can play a role in the mental health and stability of boys and men. He discusses how suppressing emotion, while not a damaging act in itself, becomes harmful, particularly when done habitually. Powell states, using an analogy of whack-a-mole, you hit it down in one place and it kind of pops up in another. You can see that over time among men who use that strategy to cope consistently and habitually. This commonly is a result of men feeling the need to be manly or masculine, as these norms can govern the way men seek for help. Substance abuse has a connection to how men cope as well, with Powell claiming that rates of alcoholism or other substance abuse are higher in men, as they use them in response to anger or other negative emotions more. For all the more fortunate out there, could you imagine having to bottle up your emotions, fearing the way for you to appear in front of others, never really getting to be true to how you feel without being instantly shut down? Could you imagine the important men in your life falling victim to addiction to treat your struggles with mental health, or even experience such a thing yourself? In any case, mental health should certainly be something we care about more, whether from men, women, or anyone. Suffering silently should never be one's only option. Letting men suffer in silence is something we should do no longer. Think about all the important men in your life, whether it be family, your partner, or even your friends. To begin with, we should advocate for men in the justice system. No longer should we allow unjust rulings due to biases against men. People who stigmatize men, even though it is hard to enforce, it would be best if we kept these people out of positions of power, such as a juror who should be impartial. For we shall not let discrimination play in the fate of men or any person. For any jury or judge, we should only pick those who can be impartial and properly research who we consider for the jobs. Something we can all do ourselves, and the men important to us, is encourage them to seek mental help if they really need it. Bear in mind that illnesses aren't inherently obvious. You must first look out for them to spot problems. There are many things we can do to fight misandry and toxic masculine standards, and the first step is that we must stand up for males. For decades, even centuries, we and our ancestors have fought for our indiscriminate rights socially and legally in a long-winded battle, and there is no excuse nor reason to not extend this fight for men.